Next up is Oli from Unbounce, a killer landing page platform. If you've ever wondered what the actual measurable impact of certain factors like types of traffic and copy and elements in specific areas of your landing pages is, search no more. Oli is breaking it all down in his talk, so please help me welcome him to the stage.
Welcome back, Ad World. We're gonna have an awesome conversation right now. I'm very much looking forward to this one. He is another one of my favorite guests on the show. He is the co-founder of Unbounce, and I've heard that recently he has been named the most brilliant mind in online marketing in this world by his 2-year-old son. So I'm not sure how much that's worth, but welcome, Oli.
Thanks for having me on. It's a shame we can't do this in person, but you know what? The fact that he's 2 doesn't matter to me. I'll take it. I'll right on the wall.
You should definitely do that. You should definitely do that.
Thinks his dad's cool. That's it.
I agree. Well, I have a 2-year-old as well. He has never said anything like that about me, and that's probably for a reason. But happy to pick your brain for a little while here. Well, you obviously know a thing or two about, well, online journeys, landing pages, and so forth. But the last conversation we really had about that was, I think, like 2 or 3 years ago, right? Yeah. At least the last conversation in person. So a lot of things have actually developed over that time. And so I'd say, should we jump right into it and dissect how you build funnels and what do you recommend for 2021 and beyond?
Let's do it.
All right, perfect. So I love to start off with some marketing principles, right? We're going to move into the tactics, but on the principles level, what do you think makes I think you call it a high IQ marketer?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would define there's kind of 3 levels when it comes to marketing IQ. You've got low IQ, that's kind of the spammy side of things. That's all those emails you get saying, hey, can I get a 15-minute call? Oh, you missed that. Can I just bump it to the top of your inbox? No, you can't. The reason I didn't answer is because I don't want you in my inbox. It's not, I don't have time for your terrible 15-minute call. Then fixed IQ is regular marketing. That's what pretty much everybody does. It works, but it doesn't work very well anymore because everyone is doing it and it all looks the same. And then high IQ marketing is doing things on a bit of a different level, and it requires you to understand a few different principles and challenge yourself to get that extra bit better so that you do stand out.
So what are those then? I want to become a high IQ marketer. So what do I need to do?
Well, I took traditional IQ and I transposed it into marketing IQ. So there are 4 general things about IQ. There's spatial awareness, that translates to design. There's language, that's copywriting. There's memory, that kind of goes into process and repeatable processes. And there's mathematical, which is analytics and data. And really, it's about pushing yourself, because something that's recognized by scientists is that your IQ doesn't really grow after you're about 16, 17, 18 years old. But if you want to, or means you just give up. But some believe that the only way you can is by learning more complex methods, understanding more complexity, because when it comes to marketing, communication is about simplicity, but growth is about complexity and, pushing ourselves to do different things and better things. And I have a wonderful example, because one of the principles I talk about is like flipping things upside down or back to front, just so you can get a different perspective or a different insights about how to optimize. Like imagine just running your sign-up flow backwards. So if you're a SaaS company, start at the point of success. Yay, I just got some software. That's awesome. Then move your way back. Oh, I gotta pay for it. Credit card. Oh, then, what's this awful form? Oh, homepage. That's a cool value prop. I like that. Just by going backwards, you might see something different, or read your landing page copy backwards, print it out. And I like to do a distraction exercise because nobody's got time. Get a landing page, print it out, read it from the bottom to the top. Not words backwards, but this paragraph, that paragraph, but do it while walking in a circle, because that little bit of extra distraction will throw you off, and you might hear something in your communication go, that's not very conversational, or that doesn't sound right, or that bit's cool, I should bring that to the top. The best example of this, flipping things upside down, is if you're familiar with the game show Jeopardy. It's in North America. I'm not sure everyone's seen it, but basically there's different categories of questions. It's a quiz show. And at the top, they're not worth very much money, and they get harder and harder, and they're worth more at the bottom. And for 35 years, everybody's done this game the same way. They start at the top to figure out the category, how it works, then they go down progressively to the bottom. Then a sports gambler from Vegas came along, and he completely flipped it upside down. So he started at the bottom, where all the money is. And more importantly, the super high IQ move, he scraped 35 years of publicly available data to see where the daily doubles are. These are things that allow you to gamble all your money versus just making $200. The only way to really accelerate. So high growth, high IQ. So he found out where they were statistically. And that's where he started all these things. So he's making tens of thousands of dollars. So you got these contestants on there going, oh, what's happening? I would need 20 years to be on the show. I've got no money. I'm being crushed. He smashed every record. That, for me, is thinking in a different, higher IQ method. Yeah,
that's a little different. That's fantastic. It is different. Yes, it is different. Wonderful. Can you repeat the 4 areas that make a high IQ marketer?
Yeah, actually, so you start with 4 and you come to 6. So
okay,
you have spatial awareness. This is our ability to understand the visual world, design patterns. So that translates to conversion center design. Then we have language ability. That translates to conversion copywriting. Memory is all about repeatable processes. So when we have an optimization process, finding ways to make it faster and faster. One way to do that is to have the method that you create your work, use the same rules and method to critique your work, so people don't get offended because you're like, oh, we didn't follow our own rules. Oh, you're right, fix it, versus that sucks. And then you use the same method again to QA. So you're always following the same principles, then it gets faster and faster and faster. So that's using memory and repeatable processes. And then finally, there's mathematical, which is about analytics and data. But typically I add on emotional intelligence and strategic thinking into that as well, package those 6 things up, and that's what goes into making a high IQ marketer.
Fascinating. I will definitely work on my high IQ system after this conversation. Thank you very much. That's awesome. Well, I love funnels and I love working with landing pages. And so I'm super interested in your approach nowadays when it comes to funnels. So funnels have been around for a while now. They used to be groundbreaking in their approach. Now almost everybody is doing them. If not, they probably should. But you obviously have more data when it comes to how exactly a funnel should be built and how you actually position different products or services along that funnel, right? Talking about upsells, cross sells, down sells. What's your approach that you see working best nowadays?
Well, one of the things, when you talk about upsell, cross sell, one of the things there is not to have too big of a leap. When you're buying something, like I like to put it on a scale of, okay, well, we have a blog subscription, we have an ebook download, we got a webinar attendance, we've got a demo of the product, perhaps we've got a call, we've got all these different things. If you try to go from one to 6, you're not typically going to succeed, and if you keep it super relevant. So a simple example, someone subscribes to your blog because of the topics you're talking about. You then give them a free ebook. And ebooks are tough these days. I mean, they're so overdone, but still, just for example flow on the same topic. Then on the confirmation page for that download, you say, hey, we're actually doing a webinar on the same topic. Come along to that. It's a simple progression. And then at the end of the webinar, you give a demo of your product, but you focus on the features that represent the topic you just talked about. So it's all connected versus, here's a webinar about copywriting. Now let's jump into our product, which has got nothing to do with that. So, it's got to be on track and just go further and further and further. But one of the important things is when you're using landing pages in your funnel, so you've got people who are unaware and they come and see this. If someone's moving on your funnel over time, they are familiar with you. They obviously liked the first touch, the first landing page that you did. So knowing that, you need to maintain the same style of that so that they're, oh yeah, I'm familiar with this. I know how this page works. I know what the interaction model is. I know how to read this thing because it's the same as the last one, but you refine it. So here you need maybe more about you and the company, blah, blah, blah. As you go down, strip some of that away and get more specific and more specific, but keep everything feeling and looking the same, because that takes a little bit of cognitive load away because it's familiar to them. And that can speed up the flow and take away some of the barriers that might come along if you see kind of disjointed design and things like that, or repeated things that don't need to be repeated. So sometimes it's about that. And sometimes it's just about having access to trustable external data that can help you with your copywriting, your design, and things like that. I'm sure we'll touch on that.
Oh, perfect. So I want to go deeper when it comes to funnels. So what you just mentioned, it should be a no-brainer, but you still see so many funnels who do not follow that principle. So if you do, let's say everything is aligned and those barriers are not in the way and people like progress through that journey, how many different products would you typically recommend people have inside their funnel? Obviously, it depends, but what do you see across different industries and types of products working very well?
Yeah, I'm not too sure, honestly, because the marketing we do is very specific. We're SaaS company marketing at SaaS companies. Right. Actually, we market to e-com and agencies and other SaaS businesses. But it depends on the functional use case, because something we went through, we're predominantly landing pages. Now we're in conversion intelligence platform. It has more things, AI and stuff. But a while ago, we launched pop-ups and sticky bars. So a new product. A mistake we made, and this is a mistake a lot of people probably make, is we made this as a complementary product. Marketers use that. However, predominantly the people who use landing pages are performance marketers. They're doing PPC, things like that. Maybe email marketing. The people who are using sticky bars and pop-ups are usually in control of the website. That's a completely different functional user. So if you're trying to sell this other product, upsell into, hey, you want to get into this, that might not be relevant at all. You have to find a way to speak to their team member or the person over here. So that's a completely different mechanism. You've got to go after people in a different way. You might use the familiarity of branded search to get in front of people. I've heard of Unbounce. I don't use it. He uses it over there. But you're talking about this product now. And yeah, you have to understand that functional use case. And a lot of it comes down to looking at your adoption metrics, because I got super scared when I saw ours initially when we launched this. I'm like, why is it so low? It's a great product. And digging in, you find out some of those things, and you have to retarget other people instead of wasting your time trying to do these cross sells or whatever to that person who might not be the functional user.
Right. That makes a lot of sense as well. That's true. Okay. Well, another thing I'm interested in is the role of video, right? So obviously over the last years, we've seen how important video has become, how important mobile use has become. Now, 2021, we have seen a lot of change again, upside down in many ways, and becoming even more important. Is it generally increasing conversion rates on your sites, and why? Can we dive into that? I'd be super interested.
Yeah, it's essential, especially now, because video is the predominant medium. Although we're all pissed off at looking on Zoom and looking at a camera, but we are now even more trained that video is the mechanism by which we do business, because the other sides of things are not really there. Now, will it make something perform better? That depends how you do it. I mean, video is so, if you have crappy videos, that's not going to help you. But the quality has to be better now. Everything's so much better about video, and you need to know how to use it properly. I spent some time a few years ago working with Wistia. They gave me access to a massive amount of their data about how videos convert. And it's fascinating. And this comes down to another high IQ principle I'll branch off in a sec, which is about reverse engineering your magic. So whatever it is you do that's very special, how you work as a person, as a team, as a leader, as a brand, or whatever it is, how you do things, reverse engineering that so you understand it, because a lot of people just do their work. They don't understand how they do their work because they just got better at it, right? If you undo it back to first principles, you have a deeper understanding and you're able to share that with other people, teach people in the team, everybody goes better. Anyway, so what I've done that with a clarity equation about landing pages, but what Wistia did with me, they took all of the kind of elements of a high converting video. And there are many factors. So there's on-page factors, where you put it, and the size of the player, the contrast of the button. Those things can impact it. I think above the fold is good for video. You don't need your form above the fold anymore. Your CTA, that can be at the bottom of the page. But video is good because the storytelling angle, you get it to it right away. Yeah. The size of the player was just kind of like a medium size, like 600 pixels kind of thing. It seemed to inspire the most clicks. Probably because it's not overwhelming and it's not tiny. But the really fascinating stuff was the interactions inside there. So there are several things. One thing, if you're doing lead gen in a video, not all videos can do that, but Wistia can. They have a turnstile, which is a form basically. You enter your details and you get to continue through the video. But it depends where you put it on how you'll succeed. And the best places are about 20% in or 20% from the end. Because if it's too soon, it's like, that's annoying. If it's at the end, you're like, sucker, why do you watch the video? Why would I do that? You know, so there's these prime spots to increase conversion rates of that. There are different types of CTA. There's like the annotations, the things you see. I'm going to do this in the camera, like up there. Yeah. Well, there's a full screen CTA they have, which is the whole thing. And what was fascinating there was the bipolar nature of the conversion results, the language you use on the buttons or the thing. And what we found was that when it's over here, language like click here or exclamation points or a bit, or now urgency words increase the click-through rate dramatically up here. When you use those things, when it's in your face, a big thing like now or exclamation points or click this, it put the conversion rate down. And it kind of makes sense. This is aggressive. That's, attract my attention, right? Yeah. So the important part there, and this is another high IQ principle, knowing your baseline metrics. If you don't know these things, you might take a principle you've learned here. Oh, we do that, increases click-through rate. You do it everywhere else and you start hurting yourself, right? So understanding your baseline metrics in all these different areas establishes your baselines and your best practices. Now, a lot of experts kind of crap on best practices, like, best practices, whatever, they're useless. Well, maybe to a super expert, but there's someone who's new to their career every day and they don't know these things. So the more we educate them about the best practices and specifically the baselines of how your business operates and why it's the basic health metrics of your business and the conversion rates from different things, where things perform. If you document that properly and teach that to people when you're onboarding them, you'll accelerate their growth and then your growth by design. So you can't just go, woo, we did that, increase the conversion rates. You got to share that information to help everyone kind of grow.
Absolutely, and I feel that's what we do here right now as well. So that's great. Let's do more of that actually, and jump into more optimization. Well, I wouldn't call it hacks, but more of your approach to optimization. So as you just shared, like even with video, there is probably a dozen different components that you could work on, but there's always priorities, right? And you want to start with your quick wins and use the biggest leverage points to get your conversion rates up and your funnel to be more successful. Do you use any kind of framework here, or in other words, how do you prioritize what's to measure and optimize first?
Right, good question. The number one, two reasons people don't do optimization on landing pages in particular is because they don't have the expertise or they don't have time. Because the A/B testing takes a long time. Got to do research, got to run a statistically significant test, which you cannot do if you don't have enough traffic. Every single person in the world who does A/B testing does it wrong to begin with. It's just a fact.
That includes me. Okay, so tell me more.
Me too. I screwed it up horribly at the beginning. You get excited. I'm going to do 6 different versions of this headline. Oh, that one's winning after 16 hours. Boom, put that live. Yeah, that's what people do. So we need to, and then there's the time thing, but there's also not knowing, well, what should I test, which leads to a lot of subjective stuff. Exactly. So you need to do the conversion research to find these pain points, blah, blah, blah. but that's also difficult. People do it wrong again. So I think I like to focus on what I call micrometrics. So running little experiments and studies to observe people on your page, 3 or 4, scrolling, all the normal things you do. And then when you find the little points of friction, then break them down by how fixable they are. Actually, this is another high IQ marketer principle, which is about removing obstacles. No, it's like eradicating them. Basically, there are 2 segments of friction. There's reducible, that's what we always talk about, reducing friction, and then there's removable entirely. So if you think about
can you give examples? Yeah,
if you have a lead gen form, you take the form away, you'll increase your conversion rate because you took away the friction. It's now utterly useless for lead gen, but you reduce the friction. However, there'll still be a portion of people who don't click the button. So you haven't removed it, you've reduced it. Now, if you think about this event, if you're selling tickets for a conference, now we'll talk about in-person conference because that's where this is relevant. Thinking of our conference in Vancouver, Call to Action Conference. So the segments of people plug for like 7 years in the future. The segments of people who come are the 3 we want to attract: agency, SaaS, and e-com. But then there's repeat attendees, there's customers, and then there's locals and people from the US being the biggest other country who attend. Now, if you break down those segments, if you want to market to the US folks, you can use the currency factor to reduce friction. Your dollar's worth 28%, 26% now, more than ours. So instead of going to New York from Seattle, come here because your hotel and your ticket for the conference are going to be way cheaper. It's easier to convince your boss because it's a cheaper option. So that's reducible friction. You can market to that segment with that principle. Then you can take the local audience. They have no travel, no hotel requirement. So that is a removable obstacle because I do research. And the number one reason people don't attend conferences, they don't get permission, is because of the cost of travel. So you can market to them because that is eradicated entirely. That friction no longer exists. So when you are looking through your work and you're doing research, or you observe points of pain, immediately categorize them as removable or reducible, because it'll change how you think about optimizing them. And another thing, I mentioned micrometrics. So again, if you're doing lead gen, say you're doing an ebook or a webinar landing page, and it's not converting as much as you want, like always. If you go, how to optimize this? There's the subjective method, or let's just change a bunch of stuff, which won't work. But if you study, this is something, a lot of conversion rates of lead gen are completely wrong, because a low IQ marketer doesn't care about the quality. They just put bad pop-ups everywhere. They want as many leads as possible. They don't care what they like. They just want the number to go up. Fixed IQ is they have a good landing page experience, but they take the conversion rate as being the truth. A high IQ marketer will look at the leads. I've done this manually. It's a horrible exercise, but it's worth doing. Manually look through your leads. If you have masses of them, just choose a segment, like a representative portion of them, and look through them and categorize the email addresses as to what they are. You're going to have spam, that's from bots or things like that. You're going to have fake, that's real people putting in fake information because they don't want to give you their information. They hope to get the thing without it, like the ebook. They hope you'll give a link on the confirmation page, but then they didn't need to give you a real email address. And then there's real ones. Now you're like, I want to change. So here's a micrometric. 23% of our leads are real people, but they're fake. How can we do that? So now we optimize for that. Forget everything else. How can we do that? How can we change behavior? Well, very specifically, expectation setting in the form, very crucial. Please give me the email address you want us to send the ebook to. Now they know I have to give the real one. You've changed behavior, right? So you've attacked that micrometric, specifically designed an experience to remove it, and that will change the quality of your leads. And then looking another way, categorizing it, what percentage of them are personal emails versus pro? So Oli at Gmail, I wish I could get that. I don't have that. Versus Oli at unbalanced.com. I want the pro one so I can market to you in your business thinking, in your business email address. So I ran another experiment there where just changing the field label for email impacted that. So email address, about 40% were pro. Your best email address went up a little bit. Work email address went up quite a bit. And business email address, it went up to 59%. Massive change just by asking for what you want. People are often tired, and you ask what you want, you get what you want. It happens in life, it happens in lead gen. So these things are little micrometrics. And when you have a very specific thing like that, you can change behavior by designing an experience that changes that. Instead of trying to go, it's not good enough, let's change the headline, let's move the form, let's do that. That's hard because you're not basing on anything. But focusing on these little things where you can change behavior can have a profound effect when they all add up.
That's fantastic. I really love your way of thinking and how looking at things. It is actually quite different to how many people approach performance marketing nowadays. So that's very refreshing. I hope everybody's listening to that and starting to use their brains even more. That's cool. I think we're running out of time already. So let me give you one last challenge before we cut it off for today. The challenge is, let's say I want to build out a new funnel, right? I'm starting with the first landing page. I'm drawing my customer journey, whatever. How would you recommend that I actually get things going? How much time to invest into thinking, taking your principles in mind, and structuring the entire process? How much is it about just going in, starting lean, formulating experiments and letting the data speak? How would you approach it if you would have to start a completely new funnel for a product and a service that you do not yet perfectly know?
I would begin at first, if you know you're not going to have much traffic, don't think about testing. Think about learning, observing things, so that by the time you have enough traffic 6 months down the road, you can run a valid test. But in the meantime, do research, observations, and change things based on that. But I would start with what I call known contexts. So you know something about your audience, you know something about how you do your work, your subject matter. But then there's other contexts. So something we're doing at Unbalanced called Smart Traffic. It's our AI-based technology, which replaces A/B testing. And the contexts there are that we're aware of. There's things like traffic factors like your location, time of day, browser, device, all those things. And basically what the software does is it redirects people to the page they're most likely to convert on based on these factors and other copy factors our algorithm has figured out, like reading ease, emotion, sentiment, word count, and how these differ by industry. And A/B testing is a flawed system. It's lossy. This one, you throw this away. Unfortunately, there are a portion of people who would only ever convert on page B. So you throw it away, this is better, but those people will never convert. So you've lost them. The way our smart traffic works is you don't throw pages away. It just pushes people to the right place and you keep them all in place, and you can optimize in as little as 50 visitors versus 3 weeks and thousands. Anyway, so it's these known contexts that can help you get started faster. Here's another simple thing. What we've learned in our research is that copy can be twice as influential as design when it comes to conversion. So work on your copy first. The story should lead the design. And then we just released a conversion benchmark report, which digs into industry-specific data on what can help conversions. So interesting things, a few quick snippets on that. In finance, we found out that more than 2 form fields was very damaging to conversion. Having a name on your form fields for education, catering, finance, I'm looking here, business services, travel, econ, legal, and medical, SaaS and a few others were different, but those, they didn't like the name on a form field, which it's scary not asking for a name, but with this context, this known insight, it's something to try. If you don't want to do it, don't do it, but try it. It might have an impact. And then another one, there are certain industries where people didn't like phone number. And I understand that, especially if it's required. And maybe you test that mobile versus desktop, because on your phone, you're thinking about a phone, even though it's not a phone anymore. And you have a better dial pad on the form if you do it right to enter it. It's easier versus on a desktop. Maybe there's like, But If you need to do sales calls, you might need it. If you don't, if you're just being aggressive asking for this thing, consider not asking for it or don't make it required. So when you know these things, you can start from a place of existing intelligence. That will help you the first time you're starting something. So the more places you can get this type of information and data and context from, the faster you can get started.
Fascinating. Fascinating. Thank you so much. I wish we could continue with this conversation for hours. We will when the world starts traveling again. Yep. And I'm very much looking forward to that. Thank you so much, Oli Gardner.
Me too, and it was an absolute pleasure.